How do you change your environment? By changing your thoughts. I've taken this, stolen it right from the mouth of Joe Dispenza. Took it out of his, put it in my brain, and now I'm going to tell you all about it. Dr. Joe Dispenza is brilliant, and he's written a couple books and a lot of lectures and meditation practices and stuff you can find on YouTube. I would encourage you to look him up if you find this topic interesting. So I will summarize a component of his lectures for you here that I think is very relevant to the topic of addiction and overcoming addiction. So if you watched the last video where I talked about stop recovering, start living, I don't care for the whole recovery terminology in this, but I use it because it's part of my conditioning and it's part of your conditioning, so we all understand what it means. But I try to stay away from it. So I try to overcome addiction rather than recover from addiction. And I don't know that I have much more reason than I just don't like it. But I guess it's about mindset and what those words mean collectively in our minds. So yeah, that's that. Okay, so if you want to change anything in your life, then it starts with a thought. And so this is, my back itches. Everything, I'm always itchy sometimes. It's dry, and I let dust in this office. You can see it when the sun comes through the window. Back to the topic. So it goes like this. It's simple, not simple. That's another. All right, we'll talk. Maybe I'm gonna make a video on that one. So many things I like to talk about. All right, so thoughts starts with thought. Thought then predicts, it prepares, your thoughts prepare for your choices. Your choices then lead to your actions. Your actions create behaviors that become part of your personality, and your personality determines your personal reality. This is according to Joe Dispenza. And this is how I explain it. So in the topic of substance use, let's say that, we'll use cannabis for an example. I think about it and I decide cannabis use is okay. It's not a bad thing. It has health benefits. It doesn't lead to violent behaviors or social problems necessarily. It doesn't have to. Cannabis can be pretty safe. That's my decision. That's what I think. So then when I'm presented sometime with the option of using cannabis, someone says, hey man, would you like to smoke? Then I'll say, hey man. Everyone who smokes pot, I say, hey man, that's why I said that, but it makes it sound like a hippie thing, but that's not what I was referring to. And you wouldn't have picked up on it if I didn't go off on this tangent, but I think out loud, and so I just did that all over this. Okay, so someone offers me marijuana. Well, actually cannabis. Let's use the proper terminology. Marijuana is a wild tobacco that grows in Mexico, from what I understand, and cannabis is not that. So let's actually use the real terminology instead of the war on drugs propaganda. Cannabis, and then someone offers me cannabis, and I've already made that decision that I think cannabis is safe to use, and so I say, yes, I would like to try some of your cannabis. Kind sir, that's exactly how I would say it. So they smoke me up, and so now I have smoked cannabis. Now I've used cannabis. So my thought was that this is okay to do. My choice in the moment when it was presented to me was, yes, I will do this. And then my behavior, my action is that I smoked marijuana. I say that again. Conditioning is deep on us. I smoked a cannabis. And so now I have, if let's say I incorporate that into my routine a little bit more frequently, it becomes part of my personality. I'm someone who uses cannabis. That's one element, one small factor of my personality is that I'm someone who uses cannabis. That might increase the likelihood that I'm going to associate with people who use cannabis. Well, chances are everyone is already associating with someone who uses it, whether they know it or not. But since it's part of my personality now, I'm more likely to engage in relationships with people who use it, and I'm going to be around people who use it in places that it's safe to use or appropriate to use, if those things exist, or where you can buy it, sell it, and that kind of stuff. So my reality, my personal reality, my environment is going to be influenced by my personality, what elements make up me. And then my personal reality, then the environment I'm in, then is going to influence my thoughts. So you can see how this process works. Thoughts to choices to actions to personality to personal reality. So now my personal reality is that I'm spending time around and with cannabis, and so my thoughts are more about cannabis, and so then my choices are going to be more influenced by cannabis, and then my actions and so forth, and we go around in a circle. And so it's a cyclical pattern, and it feeds itself. Now, this can work for our benefit or to our disadvantage, depending on what it is. Now, cannabis is relatively safe. Alcohol's not. It can be used in moderation and safely, but any amount of alcohol can potentially be harmful to the body physically. And we all are aware of the multitude of problems socially and physical health-wise that are related to alcohol. The statistics recently I've seen, over the last couple of years, whenever they draw these things, 1 in 4 visits to the ER is alcohol-related, and how many people die every year, and the economic impact of DUIs, the life loss of DUIs, it's a pretty significant impact from alcohol. So that one, if we have a thought process of, I think I'll choose to drink alcohol, and then I choose to drink alcohol, and then I drink alcohol, that can become a more dangerous cycle of behavior. But it doesn't have to be. Again, it's like 10 to 20% of people who use alcohol do it to a problematic level. It's not very big, but if you're one of those people or attached to one of those people, then that's a problem. But there's other things in our lives. Gambling can be one of these issues. There's all kinds of things that we can do that can become problematic. But it all starts with our thoughts. So relate this back to stop recovering, start living. How do we use this process to create lasting change in our lives? By just addressing our thoughts. It starts with our thoughts. I no longer feel like I'm benefited from doing this behavior. I no longer want to use heroin. I no longer want to smoke cigarettes. I no longer want to drink alcohol. I no longer want to spend recklessly all my money down a drain. Whatever the behavior thing is, or I no longer want to think negative thoughts about myself. I have low self-worth. I call myself dumb all the time. I don't want to do that anymore. So we have the thought, I no longer want to do these things. But remember, stop recovering. We don't want to focus on the thing we want to get rid of. We want to focus on what we want. So rather than I don't want to do these things anymore, we have the thought, I am healthy. I live a healthy life. And so then when the choice presents, so if that's your mantra, I am a healthy individual, I live a healthy life, I take care of my body. When the choice is presented to you to drink alcohol, you think, will drinking alcohol benefit my health or hurt my health? And so now if you're thinking a lot about how you're healthy, then when you're presented with the choice to do something that might not be healthy, you're more likely to make the choice of the healthier choice, and then your behaviors will follow. I have, if I say I am in control of my financial expenditures, then when that's my thought, then when the choice is presented to me, buy this nonsense thing for $50 or save the money, and if I remember back to my thought, I am someone who financially manages his money well, then I'm not going to spend the $50 on the nonsense thing. I'm going to save the money. And then because I saved that money, that becomes my personality type. Over time, again, this isn't going to happen with one thought, one choice, one action. This is a simplification of it to illustrate. But as you do this over and over again, every time you go into the store, you're presented with the option to buy some nonsense thing, because it's all over the place. Everything in there's nonsense for the most part. Not for the most, a lot of whatever. Shut up, Paul. Okay. So every time I go into the store, I'm presented with the option to spend my money recklessly. And if I'm constantly thinking that I spend my money responsibly, then I'm less likely to make that choice. I'm less likely to do it, and then I'm no longer associating that as part of my life. I'm no longer focusing on I'm in debt in a lot of ways. I'm financially irresponsible. That's no longer part of my personality. And then that lends to a new personal reality. So I guess it's good for examples. I think it should be understandable. If not, then abandon me completely and go look up Joe Dispenza, because he knows how to explain this better. But I think that gets the point across, and this is a method that you can use when you are changing your focus from I don't want to smoke cigarettes anymore to I want to improve my physical health, or I am physically healthy. Because if you are a physically healthy person, then it doesn't make sense that you would do physically unhealthy things. And so you've got to change the conditioning. So far, if you're dealing with an addiction, you have conditioned yourself to respond to life in certain ways, to incorporate certain behaviors and thoughts into your life. You want to condition yourself to have new thoughts and new behaviors that aren't the harmful ones. And again, it's up to you to decide which ones are the harmful ones and which ones are not the harmful ones. Everybody can, I just saw I can see the refresh rate in the video, I think. It looked like the shadows crawling up the wall. I never noticed that before. Because the lighting in here is not great for video. What was I talking about? I don't know. It doesn't matter. See you in the next video. No, I'm just kidding. I think, no, I guess I don't really know what I was talking about. Oh, it's your choice. If you think that there's change that needs to happen, anybody can tell you, I can tell you that you shouldn't live your life that way, but why is it up to me? What's my say have to do with it? What do I know about your life? It's your call. Some people are going to influence or be factors in that decision for you. Some people are going to impose their will on you, or they're going to put pressure on you to do a certain thing, and you've got to decide how much of that you want to consent to or allow. But the point is, you're in control of all of this, and that's what this thought to reality cycle teaches us, is that we are really in control of these things. And again, it's a very watered down, simplified summary of this idea, but what it gets to is that you create everything in your world based on what you spend your time and attention on, where your awareness lies. So if you can take control of your awareness, then you can take control of all these other things. Because right now, you and I, we're both running on autopilot. A lot of times our bodies are in control more than our minds are, more than our awareness is, because of conditioning, because of repetition. That's how we learn. That's how we have learned. And that's how we can change this. When we can take control of that, then we can be whatever it is we want to be, and have whatever it is we want to have in our lives. Or, at the very least, we can recognize how much control we do have and feel more confident in what we have going on and make it meaningful to us. Even if we don't like it, if it's in our preference, we accept it as complete, and we'll have more peace. So, until next time, goodbye.